Injustice anywhere is the threat to justice everywhere. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. The year was 1526. Babur, descendant of Genghis Khan and Halaku families, was invading India. City was city of Ahmedabad, which is part of Pakistan today. On the other hand, defendants of India were Lodi Pathans, who were ruling India or North India for almost 200 years. Babur's invading forces, they were burning the city, raping the women, destroying everything there. And founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, was in the city challenging the mighty Babur. And this is almost 450 years ago. What Guru Nanak Sahib said much later on December 10th, 1948, when Charter of Human Rights was accepted by United Nations Organization in San Francisco, most of the words which are in Guru Nanak's hymns in the Sikh scripture, Guru Granth Sahib, we can see that UN Charter is almost the translation of those very words. Guru Nanak said, Je sakta sakte ko mare, ta man rosh na hoi, sakta siho mare pe vagge, khasme sa parsoi. That if two powerful duel, they fight, one is killed or one is defeated, no regrets, no complaints. But when one party that destroys the defenseless people, tortures them, then it is certainly not only regrettable, the question will be raised. That is where, when we say Guru Nanak's Patsha is the founder of human rights on that part of the land, and that those were not just words. Guru Nanak Sahib was arrested by the forces of Babur, and when Babur realized, as there was a tradition of fakirs or whirling fakirs and God-oriented people, when Babur saw Guru Nanak, he came, regretted, and he wanted to release him. But Guru Nanak set the condition that release everybody, stop killings in the city, stop looting of the city. And that didn't happen just with Guru Nanak Patsha. Almost 100 years later, in the earlier part of 17th century, 6th Guru, Guru Hargobind Sahib, the same, then Jahangir was the king of Delhi, the same repression was going on. Guru Hargobind Sahib was imprisoned in the Gwalior fort. And when he wanted to release him, again was the precondition that release all these political descendants. There were close to 52 rebel kings, those who were imprisoned in Gwalior fort. And that is what the king had to do. And then by the time of 9th Guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib, who sacrificed his life for the right of the others, as that was the time of Aurangzeb, tyranny, the period of tyranny, the basic religious rights were being taken away. Thou, Sikhism don't believe in stone worship or any other Hindu practices. But as at that time they were under attack, Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib came forward, sacrificed his life and said that you have no right to take away the religious rights of the others. It is the free will of the people, whatever way they want to practice their religion. 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Sahib. When you look at a Sikh with 5 articles of faith, with turban, with unshorn hair, with uncut beards, and with a small sword, then this is that model. When the very preamble of United Nations Charter says, if a man is not to be compelled as a last resort to rebellion, his human rights must be protected by the rule of the law. For almost 2 centuries, Sikhism stood for the values of truth, justice, liberty, for the rights of everybody. But then a time came that there was a final assault on Anandpur Sahib, and then Sikhs resisted the Mughal tyranny, the invaders from Dharai Khyber, and for 1 century, for whole of 18th century, Sikhs were persecuted. Over 200,000 Sikhs were killed in that time, during that time. But then Sikhs established a kingdom of their own, Sikh Empire, 200,000 square mile from Dara Khyber to Tibet, and from the banks of Satluj to the foothills of Sindh. And that empire of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, even today, when BBC had a service couple of years ago, that ideal rule in 5,000 years of human history, where there was no death sentence, there were no jails, and Sikhs were just 13% of the population of that rule, but that was meritocracy was the basic criteria of the whole thing. And that was the time when we talk about resilience. Resilience is not only just resistance, but standing for those very values. And when Guru Gobind Singh Sahib and his nation was under attack, he wrote finally a letter of victory to the ruler of the time, where he said, "You must be very happy. You have killed my 4 sons. You have killed thousands of my Sikhs. You have destroyed my city of Anandpur, but you have extinguished few candles. The whole hot burning furnace of Khalsa is around me. I'll make Punjab so hot that your horses won't be able to gallop around the burning plains of Punjab." And history is a testimony that how Sikhs changed everything on that part of the world. Brothers and sisters, this month of June, as we are here at the UN Church Center, 41 years ago, the same total war, which at one time Mughals, at one time invaders from across the Dara Khyber, they attacked Sikhs. The similar way, total war was declared on the Sikh nation in the first week of June 1984, when Indian Army attacked Golden Temple, which is Darbar Sahib the name, as it has a gold around and it is erroneously called Golden Temple. They attacked with artillery, full-scale war against the Sikhs. Golden Temple is the sanctum sanctor of the Sikhs. The same night they invaded 37 other Sikh historical shrines, and that was the beginning of new chapter of genocide of Sikhs since June 1984. In all these 41 years, now the repressive Indian regime, its killing spree of the Sikhs is not limited within India. Now, on June 15th, 2023, they killed a Sikh activist, Avtar Singh Khanda, in the city of Birmingham, UK. On June 18th, 2023, they killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a president of Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, Canada. Just 3 days ago, I was in Surrey, Canada, as there are almost now 2 years since he was martyred, and a gate has been raised in his memory. Khalistan flag was hoisted there. And then in America, we know that how American intelligence agencies thwarted a plan by Indian intelligence agencies of killing Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, Sikhs for Justice, the legal counsel, who actually is leading Khalistan referendum campaign around the globe. The story, as in this room we are seeing, and I have worked with Dr. Annie Khalaiza here in the Fordham University. I remember almost 20 years ago, I was in a conference in Fordham University when Armenian genocide was being discussed, though it has been recognized to some extent later on when President Obama lobbied for it. But again, after 100 years, we are again remembering those, and what is happening in Ukraine, even what is happening in Gaza today, what happened to, as Professor Sophia mentioned, what happened to our Roma people. They have come from the same part of the world where the Sikhism grew and we belong to centuries ago. And the same story with the Rohingya Muslims of Myanmar, what the army junta is doing to them. And Mr. Raja Razak is here, a Kashmiri activist, what our Kashmiri brothers and sisters are going through, and what the Sikh nation story. I think we all need to come together. We need to have more such forums. We need to understand, we just need not, as we don't sympathize with each other, we empathize with each other. We have a story that how our people, what they have gone through in the past, what they are going through in the future. And the very message should be from here, the resilience of human spirit, fighting back the oppression, working towards making this world where it should be more justice, where should be more liberty, where should be more truth. Unfortunately, the reverse is happening. We are seeing what is happening in Iran, what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening in Kashmir. And of course, my own fatherland, my own motherland, Khalistan, where over 200,000 Sikhs has been killed in the fake staged encounters, declaring them as the unidentified bodies. And India is doing that in the name of being largest democracy on this planet. That is a big joke. We know that similarly, what the Nazis did, Hitler came to power not through the coup. He came through the power with the voting system. And the same philosophy which Hitler had, one nation, one race, one leader, similarly the regime of India today, Hindu, Hindi, Hindustan. We don't have fight with any religion. It's not that we are against Hindus or we are fighting against Hindus. We are fighting against a regime which is forcing its Hindutva ideology on the minorities. It's not only Sikhs in Punjab or Muslims in Kashmir. What is happening to the Christians in the northeast, in Manipur, where the very Kuki tribe, they have been driven out of their homes. It's for more than 2-3 years. European Parliament has passed a resolution. US Congress has come up with it. Nothing is changing, as even today, India is getting away with just declaring itself as a democracy, and the trade and other things, they are taking precedent. Same happened in Canada. In the G7 meet, Narendra Modi was invited, and Prime Minister Mark Carney said, oh, India is a big economy, big resources, big this thing. And just Narendra Modi, when he left Alberta, within hours there was a report by RCM, by CSIS, Canadian Intelligence Agency, where it said that even in 2024, the nexus of Indian diplomats in Canada and the criminal gangs continued. That is not only the dichotomy, that is the shame on the part of that, but we have to reverse it. We have to challenge it. We are standing here at that August place where 193 countries whose members here, they sit every year, they come together in the month of September, remember UN Charter. But again, as when the people speak, that changes the whole thing. And thank you very much, World Sikh Parliament and Voices for Freedom, for organizing such a wonderful forum. Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.